I always have a quote for the week, and this week I wanted to remind everybody that the secret to getting ahead is getting started. And I remember hearing about Brent years ago when I was a reference librarian at the Covington Library. He is the owner of C Forward. He's an entrepreneur himself, great company, offices all over Kentucky and elsewhere. But I remember reading the articles that Brent used to write in the papers about our area in Northern Kentucky and ways to make a difference. And I thought, wow, this guy is awesome. He's so invested in the community that it wasn't a big surprise when he went on to become the president of the Kentucky Chamber. So just wanted to give a shout out to that. And then I'll do the formal introduction for Brent. We asked Brent to come and talk about the Chamber today and what he sees happening in the Northern Kentucky market. He's also just going to tell you a little bit about his takes on social media sites and what he thinks, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity for you to ask him a couple questions. But this is basically going to be a conversation with Brent. So Brent is president and chief executive officer of the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. It's the largest business organization in Northern Kentucky, representing over 1,500 businesses and 200,000 employees, including the Kenton County Public Library. He's a University of Kentucky graduate. He has over 25 years of experience as an entrepreneur and business owner. He's very active in the community, has been a graduate of the Leadership Northern Kentucky program back in 2005, and Leadership Cincinnati as well in 2016. He currently serves on a number of boards, including the Kentucky State Chamber of Commerce, the Northern Kentucky University Foundation, the Northern Kentucky Convention Center, and the Strive Partnership. Brent is also an active community columnist for the Kentucky Enquirer, the Northern Kentucky Tribune, and the River City News. So great to have you here, Brent. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Natalie. My apologies for my tardiness.
That's okay. We know where to find you.
Yeah, right. Well, first of all, welcome everybody. It's great to see everybody. I see so many faces here. I'm obviously a big fan of the libraries, Natalie's and Dave Schroeder. I don't know if Dave's on, but I'm a big fan of Dave's and all the work that they do. And when I started C Forward years ago, I actually tell this story about I went to the library and got information on variety of things. Everything, you know, it's an IT company, so I would always go to the library regularly for technology things, but also marketing. And I remember going up to the front desk and saying, you know, I'd really like to market, send targeted letters to firms that are 50 employees or less that might need IT services. And the library gave me, this was 1999, so they gave me a hard floppy disk, if you guys remember that, with Excel. It was an Excel spreadsheet of all the names and addresses of attorneys and accountants and doctors and things like that that were 50 employees or less. And I'll never forget that. The library is just a wealth of resources for all of us, so I'm very grateful for that. So anyway, as Natalie said, I wanted to just share some things, what's going on in the region, some facts about the region. I know some of you on this call, and some of this may be redundant, feel it's redundant coming from me because I talk about it all the time, but Northern Kentucky would be the second largest city in the state of Kentucky if we were to combine our 37 cities, and the 33 of which border one another, by the way, and in the 3 counties that we're in. So Lexington, Fayette, they formed a metro, Lexington, Kentucky, Fayette, that's 330,000 people. Jefferson County in Louisville is roughly 800,000. Now their MSAs are bigger than that. That's the metropolitan areas. Lexington's MSA includes like Richmond and Frankfort and Versailles and so forth. Our MSA actually includes the greater Cincinnati area. So Lexington's MSA is 600,000 people. Louisville's is about 1.2 million, and ours is 2.2 million if we include all of the greater Cincinnati. I always say that Northern Kentucky puts the greater in greater Cincinnati, so hashtag just saying. And we would be the second largest city at 400,000 without Cincinnati. Northern Kentucky has 400,000 citizens. And we have the largest airport in the state of Kentucky. For tourism, even though I'm going to share some bad news here in just a second if you haven't heard yet, but for tourism, it goes Jefferson, Boone County in northern Kentucky, Fayette in Lexington, and then Kenton. So we have the number 2 and number 4 counties in the state for tourism. And I think, and there's a whole slew of other metrics from manufacturing to logistics that, northern Kentucky plays a major role in the state, but we're also a key player in the greater Cincinnati region. We have, we're roughly about 20% of greater Cincinnati, just the northern Kentucky side of the Cincinnati experience, as I like to say. We're 20% of greater Cincinnati, but we're 35% of the manufacturing jobs. Again, we have the airport. We've got a lot of key amenities over here, everything from, Hopper House and the aquarium to now Turfway. Newport Gaming's opening up a new thing. I'm actually going to an event tonight, and then they're going to kick it open on Friday. And Churchill Downs is investing big in Turfway Park out in Boone County. So there's all kinds of amenities that we've got all over the place. The shopping in Florence, in Crestview, the wonderful parks that we have, AJ Jolly in Campbell County. And so anyway, that's enough spiel about that. I'm chamber president, so I got to brag about all the things that we've got a little bit. I got to update my bio a little bit. The chamber actually 1,600 members now. We're actually a little bit bigger than that at the moment. And we have been growing despite the pandemic. And I think that's because of all the value that we've added to people. I was explaining just the other day, if you were a small business and a startup, you fared better during the pandemic than the average bear if you were a chamber member. And that's because we kept everybody informed. It's because you have connections. I really can't explain the magic. I can just tell you that when my business joined the chamber and we got very engaged that year, our business doubled. And I'm not making that up. We doubled because we built up relationships and we got to know people and we leveraged all the offerings. So as Natalie mentioned, I went through LNK Leadership Northern Kentucky. We also have regional youth leadership. We have young professionals, NKYPs, and our Women's Initiative program is just off the charts. It's got to be, if it's not the best in the country, it's got to be one of the best. So for all the ladies on this call, for sure, if you're not engaged with Women's Initiative, I would strongly encourage you to do that. In person, we had over 800 people at our women's breakfast last year. It was our second largest event that we did. We had 1,100 at our annual dinner. Unfortunately, we've got to do both those events virtually this year, which really, as you can imagine, I'm not very excited about that. But you know what? Actually, we've been getting crazy good attendance. So our Outstanding Women event, we had 450 people in person last year. This year, virtually, we had over close to 8,000 views of that event. And so we're very excited. I mean, the Excellence in Education Awards, where we celebrated teachers, Next Generation Leaders, where we celebrated young professionals, and our Business Impact Award. We did those major events. Those were 300 or more people live. So Excellence in Education, for example, had 700 people live the previous year. We were to get thousands of views of that this year. So our sponsors are happy. We got people participating. And we've come up with all kinds of new ways to do virtual networking. So we can take a meeting like this and break it up into groups of 5 or 6 and spend 10 minutes, everybody going around. And this virtual networking thing seems to work out pretty well. We've had some pretty good success with that. So our annual dinner is coming up November 12th. And that is going to be, I got to quit saying dinner because we're going to make it virtual and we're going to do it at noon. So my staff is all over me to keep saying annual celebration, or it's going to be something different this year, but it's going to be awesome. And we're going to have some really cool surprises and some really cool regional guest speakers. So and virtual networking is part of that leading up to the event. So I'd encourage you to participate in that. But we do, like I said, leadership programs. We connect people at various events, and then we advocate on behalf of businesses in the region. And some of our issues right now, the number one issue for me is the economy and what we can do to help some of these small businesses that have just been devastated by the pandemic. So my read on it right now is about 80% of businesses in Northern Kentucky, and I dare say all of Greater Cincinnati, about 80% are either doing really well or they're doing okay. And I would say the really well is probably in the top tier, obviously, and the majority are just doing okay. Then about 20% are barely hanging on. And some of those are going to just go out of business. And that's just a fact. I don't, so in that group, how do we save as many of them as we can? And that's where we've been advocating for months. We were on the phone daily with our federal delegation leading up to the CARES Act. And if you remember the payroll protection program that came out, the PPP loans, the SBA loans, those were all things that we were engaged with. We stopped what we were doing at the chamber and did daily programs on the various ways for people to leverage those loans and take advantage of that help. I do think if the CARES Act had not passed, we would have gone into a Great Depression. I'm just telling you. I saw it up close. I saw it with my business. I saw it with all of the folks out there. Just to give you a sense of it, for our business, it's an IT company, 21 years in business, double-digit growth every year except for 2008 and 2009. Other than that, we've had pretty much double-digit growth every year. In March 31st, our normal end-of-month collections are around 180 grand, something like that at the end of any particular month. We're a little over a $5 million business. So at the end of March, it was $560,000. So normally we were owed this much. We went to being owed this much almost overnight. We saw the same thing in 2008. So I'm starting to get nervous. I'm chamber president, but I got a business too. And I'm starting to freak out and question my life choices. And then the CARES Act came out and we had lost business as well, just like others. As soon as people got their PPP money, they hired employees back and we saw the economy stabilize. And so I saw it up close, and I am really worried about what's coming for this winter. I'm worried about another round of this if we don't find a vaccine and have some sort of stabilization of things. So I hate to be doom and gloom, but as chamber president, that's not normal for me, by the way. Usually I'm like, rah, rah, everything's great, but we have some tough choices in front of us. And so we're going to have to confront those, especially for bars, restaurants, retail, all the hospitality. I mean, you know, the hotels, which normally would be, you know, 100% occupied during some of these beautiful summer days that we've had and fall days, they are not experiencing that right now. 50% occupancy last weekend. And the Reds, for Pete's sake, are in the playoffs. So hopefully you're going to see them, get a chance to see them today. But can you believe it? The Reds are you know, they could actually win this thing, and it's a pandemic. Ugh. So anyway, I'm hoping one of our top advocacy issues is helping small businesses through this. And there's a variety of ways to do that on the local level. Obviously, things like outdoor seating, being flexible, things with you know, zoning and so forth that could help some folks with parking or whatever. But also grants. You know, the cities, the counties, we're pushing for them to consider a round of grants. So in Louisville, Kentucky, again, our largest city, they did a round of $50,000 grants for small businesses. Lexington did $25,000 grants. And in Northern Kentucky, which again, I look at it holistically. So while we're not one city, I treat us that way in my mindset. You know, we haven't done anything like that yet. Covington was the very first city to do something. They gave out a rent relief program, so a $3,000 maybe benefit over the course of some months. Newport has done something, Fort Thomas, Fort Mitchell, and Union. So out of our 37 cities, we've had some do something, but nowhere in the realm of what the others have done yet. And so I'm hopeful that that will happen. That's one of the things we've been working on. Obviously, at the state level, we're asking the state to use some of the CARES Act. The state of Kentucky got $1.7 billion from the CARES Act. They have not allocated all of that yet. And so we're asking that they consider helping some of our businesses through this. Again, that translates into employees. That translates into the employees' families. It's bigger than just a business. It's the whole ecosystem of customers, vendors, and their families. So, you know, our mission is to promote business growth and an improved economy. And if we do it right, it results in a better quality of life for all. That's in our mission, better quality of life for all. And that's why we do some of those things. Unemployment insurance has been depleted right now. It's down to zero. So we are advocating that the state consider replenishing that. Otherwise, we're going to get hit with another huge expense at a time when we don't need it. And then we're looking at, again, transportation is always a top issue at the chamber. Anybody that drives around Northern Kentucky and then goes to other parts of the state, you may wonder why we have so many problems, challenges. And I'm not just talking about the Brent Spence, although that's something I always lament about. I had hair when we first started advocating for that one. But another one we still have to deal with is the 4th Street Bridge in Covington, Newport, for example. We've been advocating on that. I remember a consensus committee meeting in 2005 when we were talking about the 4th Street Bridge. So we're building out this beautiful music venue in Newport, the Ovation. It's going to have, when this is all said and done, it will have 180 events a year there. That's one every other day or so that we're going to have down in Newport. It's going to have a tremendous economic impact. What they were waiting for all this time to build out the Ovation down there was those roundabouts and Route 9 coming all the way down. They needed another way to get in and out of Newport. And so when that finally hit, remember those roundabouts got built, all of a sudden you're starting to see development happen. That's what happens when you build roads and bridges. Every economist agrees they're good for the economy. And so we're hopeful for projects like that will get developed. Obviously 536 top issue for us. We still feel we do need some discussions around a bypass around another one. So we got 275. We need to go south of that. Now where it goes and how it gets done, that has yet to be determined, but we know we're going to need that. Again, if you look at Louisville, you look at Lexington, you see very similar. That's the way things happen. You expand out and you relieve traffic off of our main artery. And our main artery is 75 and 71 there at the Brent. So those are all projects that we work on. There's a whole slew of other things. We get pulled into stream mitigation and new projects that are coming down the pike. We get brought in to help find ways to make those happen, but those are usually behind the scenes. So a lot of our successes you don't hear about, but we do champion a number of business issues. By the way, another one that I forgot to mention, childcare. It's a huge problem in Northern Kentucky and all of Greater Cincinnati, but in Northern Kentucky in particular. And so finding quality childcare, something we've been advocating for a long time, but I wanted you to know, collectively as a region, we've really stepped up our game with trying to convince everybody at the federal and state level to dedicate more resources to childcare. And it's the right thing to do. It's not only a short-term workforce issue with the parents that need to work, it's also a long-term issue because we need kids coming in ready for kindergarten and ready to learn in school. And we know if they get good quality childcare, that will happen more often than not. So those are some of the things we're doing. Trying to see what else. Like I said, a number of events and projects we have our growing regional outcomes through workforce, GROW, NKY. And so we're very passionate about that effort. And you'll see us a lot more with that. We've got a podcast every week with Catherine Nero. Some of you know Catherine Nero. She was on a WCPO for 20 years. Every Monday now, Mondays at 4 o'clock, you can get the news about what's happening in Northern Kentucky, kind of in a snapshot, and you'll hear about new things happening. So this week, and you can play it any time during the course of the week, so you can go back and watch it later. This week, we were talking about the new gaming facility in Newport and the economic impact that's going to have. But I will also share next week, we will be talking about what was announced today. It wasn't supposed to be official till 3:30, but it got leaked last night. The Speedway has lost the NASCAR race this year. So for those of you all that are NASCAR fans, NASCAR came out with their schedule and the Kentucky Speedway wasn't on it. And as you can imagine, that's a body blow to the Speedway, but also, from my perspective, all the bars, restaurants, hotels, that weekend when there's a race, everything's packed. And again, if you're not a NASCAR fan, you may not know that, but I assure you it had a tremendous economic impact. And if you're going out to dinner on that particular weekend, you're like, why is this so crowded today? Well, it's because there was a race in town. If you're a NASCAR fan, you loved it too because you get to go to someplace close. So I've gotten the question already, will NASCAR bring it back? I don't know. I hope so. It's a central location. We've got a great quality of life here at a low cost of living. And so bringing race fans here is economical for them. I think it makes a lot of sense for NASCAR to be here. I think it's a great facility, but I just don't know. And obviously this is pandemic related and we are where we are, but I feel like I'm just bringing the room down constantly today, but that's
it's okay, Brent. I know people have questions, so do you care? We'll give you a break. Do you need to drink water?
No, throw them at me, and I will just say on the social media front, I know you had asked that. The chamber and me personally, I use social media in different ways. Twitter is a big one for business and for getting thoughts out quickly. LinkedIn, of course, I would recommend everybody be a LinkedIn participant. I'm sure you all are. I generally do Facebook for more personal stuff. I try not to put, I felt like the debate last night was one big Facebook argument. I don't know how everybody else felt about it, but I was pretty upset by that debate and frustrated. And so I just generally put pictures of family and friends and funny things. I generally try to steer away from some of the stuff that goes on that medium, but Facebook for me is more personal. Although I will say that we've been doing a lot of chamber stuff on Facebook because it's a great way for everybody to see the videos and those kinds of things. And then Instagram, I post things on Instagram, pictures, and then automatically link them to Facebook. I don't do the personal stuff on LinkedIn. I only do LinkedIn business stuff. And so for me, each one has a different place. I'm not a TikTok person, but if you are, more power to you. But I generally see most of the business going through LinkedIn. So I will shut up with that and take questions.
Great. Thanks, Brett. If you have a question for Brett, if you could go ahead and put it in the chat, and then I'd like to be able to call on you and have you unmute and ask Brett the question yourself. But I'm going to start off with one. You mentioned all the great things that are going on in Northern Kentucky and how we rarely see them in the Cincinnati Enquirer. I'm assuming that hasn't changed much. So we have to rely on the podcasts, correct? I was wondering if there's any other news sources you would recommend for people, because there's so much growth around here if they want to keep up to what's going on.
Yeah, actually, before I jumped on, part of why I was a little bit late was the Enquirer emailed me about the Speedway, so I was going back and forth with them to give them a quote. Generally, I feel like the Tribune, Northern Kentucky Tribune, the River City News, and Fort Thomas Matters. Those three I feel like are really, really good resources. They're dedicated to Northern Kentucky. The Enquirer does some Northern Kentucky coverage, and it's actually gotten better since they hired Julia Fair through a grant that they received. I've been a little hard on the Enquirer over the years since I've been in this role, but they have gotten better on that front. And so I do look at the Enquirer, River City News, Fort Thomas Matters, and the Northern Kentucky Tribune. Statewide, I look at the Louisville Courier Journal, who generally has the best political analysis from Frankfurt, and then the Lexington Herald. And so that's how I get my Kentucky news at the moment. Sometimes I'll go to ironically, I'll go to other regions on their local newspapers, but the River City News like they had a debate last night, Fort Thomas Matters, River City News, on the Newport City Council and the school board. And so where else are you going to get that? That's the kind of stuff you want to look at. So I would definitely follow their Facebook pages and Twitter.
Good to know. Okay. Sally Nagasa has a question for you. Sally, are you out there?
Yes.
Okay, can you go ahead? You can ask it yourself if you like.
Yes, my question is just to know, do you have to be a business owner to be a member of the chamber?
Great question. No, you don't have to be a business owner to be a member of the chamber. We do have an associate membership. And if you reach out, I'll put it in the chat real quick. If you reach out to, it's Lynn Abeln, and she is our VP of membership at the chamber, and she can hook you up. But we do have special offerings there. I know somebody else had also asked about the airport, and I can't even believe I got through 5 minutes without talking about the airport. But
okay,
can I go ahead and do that, Natalie? Is that all right?
Sure, absolutely.
Our airport is, in my opinion, one of, if not the best airport in the country. We've come a long, long way. We have the lowest cost flights and more flights than Columbus, Indianapolis, Lexington, Louisville, Dayton. We are doing extremely well on that front despite the pandemic. And because our cargo is doing so well, our cargo shipments are up double digits this year, as you can imagine. That lowers the landing fees for those planes, which means it's more attractive to come here. That's how they've gotten low-cost carriers to come here and gotten some additional flights. So I do think coming out of the pandemic, the airport is going to be, our airport's going to fare better than other regions. We are still working on another international flight. Again, we're the only one of those I just mentioned that has an international flight And so we're trying to maintain that, but also expand that. And so stay tuned on all that front. But it's I'm very pleased with the job that Candace McGraw and her team does. And I mean, look, pandemic hits and flights are down. I mean, it was unbelievable how many passengers immediately stopped flying. But that has been steadily improving, and that will come back. I mean, it's just, look, history teaches us that our travel, our leisure will come back next year, but it's going to be next year, and it's probably going to be 2022 before it comes back to what it was pre-pandemic.
Good. And Brett, one thing I'll do a shout out to Sally too. And Sally, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Not sure about that, but the Chamber's Young Professionals Group for people 40 and under is very active, and they're doing all kinds of virtual events right now. It's great to meet young leaders, join people. In fact, when people have gone through the accountability group and land jobs that are in that age group here, I always say, this should be one of the first things you do to help you grow your career. So it's great opportunity. Okay, Eric Cantor asks, if you know why the state, I'm assuming state of Kentucky, is sitting on CARES Act money?
Yeah, so I don't know, to be honest, fully. I mean, I do think they were looking for best ways to spend it. They hadn't yet made the determination on the unemployment insurance. That pot of money right there is hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, that, as you can imagine, the unemployment insurance just got completely ran to nothing. And we have not been happy. Nobody's been happy with the way unemployment has been handled in any state, but ours in particular. It's been dreadful. And I can't tell you how many times we were in contact and working. I'm on the Workforce Investment Board. It's a wonderful thing. We've got great leaders there, but a lot of what was happening was state. It wasn't them. And again, some of it definitely previous administration and historical challenges, but they have not yet figured out what to do. They need to, because they got to spend that money, and they're going to have to spend it by the end of the year unless Congress acts. And I'm not sure they're going to. So, I mean, nobody knows, but I do know one pot of money was being set aside for regional projects. And we were pushing one of those regional projects to be the grants for small businesses to help them through this. So, you know, we're still advocating. I do think you'll see some announcements this coming month, because I think they have to. They're not going to have any choice.
That's good to know. So we're excited that we got the Dislocated Workers Grant, and we're going to be hiring 3 workforce development specialists. Our HR director and I are going to be interviewing the week of October 12th. So we think that's going to be a great opportunity for us to have people right in the libraries able to help people one-on-one with their job search experience. So that's a good thing coming out of that Workforce Investment Board that you're on. So there's another question here from David Young, but I think I already know the answer. We have the European Chamber of Commerce and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that cover Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. David, he asked about any ethnic chambers in Northern.
Yeah, there's actually, so on the multicultural chambers, there's the African American Chamber, Hispanic, Chinese, Japanese USA, and Indian American Chamber. And so those multicultural chambers, and you mentioned the European Chamber, who just had their annual dinner. Those are the ones that we typically work with the most. We have an international trade effort at our chamber, and so we work very closely with all those chambers. The Hispanic Chamber's annual dinner is coming up in October, and I would encourage you to go to that. And we are going to be announcing, this isn't public yet, so don't spread it around on Facebook, but or Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram. But we're going to be announcing another partnership with the Hispanic Chamber. We just announced a partnership with the African American Chamber last month. So if you join that chamber, you can join our chamber for like $99. And so there's and we're going to be doing cross marketing of events where we're doing together. We've done that the last few years, but we're really stepping up our game on that front. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a part of our business plan. It's part of everything we're doing, every single aspect, whether it was leadership, grow, you name it. That is a big part of who we want to be. And, I keep saying we want to build Chamber 2.0. We want to reflect the way we want Northern Kentucky to be. We want us to be a welcoming place that everyone feels welcomed and that everyone can thrive and succeed. And that's what I hope we're doing at the Chamber every day.
Sounds like it. David Young, did you have another question? See if he's
No,
out
I
there.
do not. I just want to say thank you very much, Brent, for talking about DNI. I was in a multi-chamber event yesterday between Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio. Currently, I'm residing in Columbus with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce and the Columbus Young Professional Group. Like Natalie's mentioned, the North Kentucky has one too. I'm looking for collaboration opportunity between multiple chambers. So I'll connect with you offline. We can discuss further. But thank you for
Yeah,
your
that'd
work
be great.
in North Kentucky.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Go Buckeyes.
Okay. FYI, Brett, thank you for posting your library card for National Library Card Month in September. We appreciate
Easy.
that. But David Young was one of those guys. David, how many library cards do you have now? 6?
I'll show it to you. It's easier. There you go.
There we
Well,
go. He's an
See?
avid library supporter.
Nice.
Yes, I'm also on
So-
Libby.com. I read a lot. So thank you very much,
Okay.
Natalie, for your service.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Sure.
Okay, Brett, I know one of a couple of our members are very interested in the Strive partnerships, but don't know a lot about that. Could you tell us about what that is in Northern Kentucky?
Yeah, so the Strive partnership actually it's mostly Cincinnati, and but it also includes Newport and Covington on the Northern Kentucky side of the Cincinnati experience. Yeah, I keep doing that.
Okay.
So it is a regional effort. It's intended to provide boost and support and initiatives, region-wide initiatives that would help education in our community. And so they work very closely with the school districts, education leaders, both, we have university presidents, school superintendents, and business leaders come in and get together and say, how can we do things that would advance the agenda in education? I know early childhood education is always a big topic because we feel like that's one of the areas we can have the biggest impact early on. 90% of brain development happens in the first 5 years. And we know that if we pay a lot of attention to that, preschool, kindergarten, and that come in ready for school, that they'll have a much better chance at succeeding. The opposite also occurs. I mean, if you're in poverty, and you are not if you're not reading on grade level by the 3rd grade and you're in poverty, you have a 13 times more likely chance of not graduating high school, of being in poverty the rest of your life. And so we've got to figure out a way to change that dynamic. It's something we've been working on for some time.
That's good to know. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat. So another question for you, Amazon, Brent. Amazon's like the company to me in the country that is like single-handedly changing our lives. And I get upset when I walk to the Crestview Hills Town Center and see the stores closing. And I want to say, please shop in the stores. And Dave Schroeder's out there. He's gotten used to buying online too. I'm like, okay, come on, and it's partially because of COVID, but they're a fact of life. They're actually going to come and present here on October 21st about all their openings and where they're going. Are we, even though they're coming in and the Air Hub hasn't started construction or being built yet, are you starting to see an influx of other businesses around Amazon like they did, at the start in Seattle years ago?
Yeah, we call it the Amazon effect. And
Okay.
the answer is yes. And if you drive down 75 and look to your right and see Atlas Air, for example, that's one of those that have come in. Amazon is a chamber member. Kroger is a chamber member. As you might imagine, they're competitors. They're and all the small business. I mean, we're a small business chamber too. I mean, we have, of our 1,600 members, I think 1,100 of those are 20 employees or less. I'm a small business owner. Our chair of the board is a small business owner. And so we look through that lens all the time. I think there's a place for all of them, and we need all of them to succeed. This is a big ecosystem. I mean, if the small businesses fail, it hurts Amazon. It hurts Kroger. It really does. It hurts our economy overall. And so we need all of them to do well. But sometimes they are in conflict. Some of the manufacturers didn't like the fact that Amazon was coming at all because it could pull workers away. And we're in a battle for talent, just like everybody else in the country. And so, what we've been trying to do is find a balance to help everybody. And I think Amazon has been, you know, they've done a number of things in our region that have helped things, you know, they're, and cause challenges for businesses for sure. But, you know, you mentioned that the construction that's going on now with their warehouse, their new, it's going to be one of the biggest warehouses in the world. I mean, it's going to be huge. And so, you know, that will have an immediate impact. Some of the downsides is a battle for talent. Some of the upsides are when you order something, it's not going to be a day, it's going to be 2 days, it's going to be 2 hours, you know, because we're going to have such close proximity to this that we're going to be able to leverage that. What small businesses need to do is adapt, and they're going to have to, in some cases, pay people more, come up with good strategies for their retention, childcare benefits, be creative. You know, we're paying for people's internet at home. We're paying for trips into the office. We'll pay for your bus pass. We'll do whatever we have to do to get you an employee and keep you happy and healthy. And so I think that's what small businesses are going to have to do, and some of the manufacturers as well. But overall, I think it's a really good thing for the region. I know that's a long-winded answer, but I wanted to be honest about it. I mean, there are some challenges with a major organization like that coming in, and we're doing our absolute best to plan around it and to help businesses become better businesses. You can compete even if you're small. I know, you know, I'm doing it too. And believe me, there's some IT providers way bigger than my company. So how is it that we've had double-digit growth every year? Because we adapt and we provide things that they can't. And so that's what I think, you know, we need to do.
Great. Brett, when you spoke last time you were here, was just under 2 years ago. It was hard to believe. We asked you about, you know, you're one of those people that people would love to be able to connect with a lot. And that's difficult. You can't do that because we talked about this. We can't possibly return all the emails, all the LinkedIn posts, all the Facebook posts, it's impossible, or we couldn't get anything done. But you occasionally do go to events, so people do try to network with you. And I remember you telling us you had some real pet peeves about how people network. And I remember you specifically saying something about the people that seem to be all about them kind of really get under your skin. So I was just going to ask you personally, since we have a whole bunch of people out here that are involved in networking, it's the #1 way to find a job right now, who are doing this. If you have any tips on if somebody is at an event and they meet someone like you, or, you know, somebody in the sweet seat, someone that they want to know, what's the best way to approach someone like you?
Well, first of all, I mean, I've been there. I mean, I have. And again, when I started C Forward, you know, I didn't know anybody in the community. I think the best thing to do is to strive for conversations. I mean, you can't walk up to somebody and just give them your resume and just talk constantly about yourself. You've got to find ways to have a dialogue and interact. I often find asking questions is really a healthy thing. Talking about common interests. Again, having a meaningful conversation with somebody is, and having them get to know you through that process is, you know, people don't care what you know till they know that you care. You know, that old line, I think Ben Franklin said that, or no, it was Teddy Roosevelt. It was Teddy Roosevelt first said that. Thank you. But anyway, I do believe in that. I think if people see that you're engaged and you care about them, they'll care about you. That it's a, you know, it's a give and take thing. I also, you know, we had talked about LinkedIn and things like that. I don't respond so well to LinkedIn emails because I also have an email. And if I do LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and all those, so I check them when I can, but it's not something that I'm doing like constantly. You just can't. And I think that's very common personally. You know, you got to find a way to interact with people in a different way. So again, I would strive to just have meaningful conversations and use the mediums that they're using to have that communication.
Okay, really get out there and explore. Do you, other than the big warehouse companies right now, the Amazons, the DHLs and FedExes, are you hearing about other companies that are starting to hire again at all?
Yes. Yeah, the top growth areas right now for us, construction, logistics and distribution, healthcare is a big one. IT, finance, and generally services on the services end. Like, I don't. It seems to me, and I'm sure if there are attorneys in this group, and I'm sure there are, they seem to be doing pretty well these days, and again, accountants seem to be pretty doggone doing all right. IT folks doing pretty well. So it's all of those. Construction just never stopped, and so that's another one that just, and that the trades make up a whole wide range of things. Plumbers, electricians, roofers. I mean, finding a contractor these days is a challenge for anybody. And
Yes.
all of those industries are doing very well. As far as specific companies, we've got a list at the chamber. And again, I would reach out to Lisa Mulcahy at Grow NKY. And I know you guys have, through the library, through the Workforce Investment
We have a
Board.
link to the chamber site on our website. So that's good to know. Good. For anybody that doesn't know that, under our job search site list on our Job Search Central site, we have a link to a lot of local places, including the Northern Kentucky Chamber.jobs. You do have to be a chamber member to post on that, post a job on that though, right, Brent?
To post something. Yeah, but
Just to post,
everybody
but
can
not
use
to
it.
look.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really good to know. One other thing, and we'll let you go because I know you're really busy and we'll continue on our way. So I just want to mention, if anybody else has questions, now's the time to ask. I'm a big fan of shifting gears, changing careers, because I'm one of those people that did that. I had a career in the printing and paper industries and then decided to become a librarian later in life. And I've only been a librarian for 11 years. And I'm a firm believer that you have to pay your dues when you want to change industries. How do you feel about, are you finding that companies will be accepting of people that maybe they're going to start over and maybe they're really good with things, or maybe they did one thing, maybe they want to be an electrician now, or maybe they want to go into carpentry or building? Do you think that's getting more accepted?
Yeah, I actually think, again, I started an IT business. Does anybody remember in 1999, everybody was worried about Y2K. I don't know if you remember that. Everybody was worried if the lights were going to stay on January 1st. And so how could I be stupid enough to start an IT business during that crisis? And then again, 2008, and now we're in another economic challenge. I actually think now is actually a good time to start a business. And I think everybody, because if you can solve a particular problem, that's the key. I mean, it's any time that you can solve a particular problem, why not take that shot and you get to work for yourself. I mean, I know that's a little bit misleading because you wind up having a whole bunch of customers, but you can control your own destiny a little bit better. I've really enjoyed being an entrepreneur. I've started several businesses along the way. It's a little bit scary. I keep telling people it's like you jump off the high dive, you see other people do it, but until you actually do it, you never quite know. But it is a highly rewarding, and there's a ton of resources right now to help. Brent at Blue North can help. NKY has now opened up a location off Innovation Alley in Covington. They've got a thing for startups and entrepreneurs. There's the SBDC, Small Business Development Council, I guess. Is that council? SBDC at NKY, you can Google that. But they've got great resources. Of course, come to the chamber. We can help get you connected, get you pointed in the right direction. But there are a ton of places out there be willing to help. And if you've got an idea or a skill set, I would explore it. Absolutely. And yes, I do think more and more people are willing to give somebody a shot, willing to give somebody a hand. We've done, in the last 6 months, we've done the restaurant relief program. We did the loans and grants for minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned businesses. We're trying to find ways to help those that are doing exactly that. So yeah, check it out if it's something you'd be interested in. And again, I I know I'm tough to get a hold of sometimes when, but I would genuinely want to help. I know the Service Corps of Retired Executives, SCORE, they are a partner of the chamber. They're a great resource. They help me with my business plan and marketing. And so there's a lot of free resources to help folks get going if you're so inclined.
Absolutely. Okay, well, great. Well, Brett, it has been wonderful having you and have you reflect on the Northern Kentucky community. I'm not going to keep you. I'm just going to take the minute and I'm going to share my screen and show people how to access the Northern Kentucky Chamber sites after you leave, and we'll do all that. But we really appreciate your input and your time today.
Natalie.
Okay?
Pleasure as
Yes.
always.
Oh, Dave.
Yeah, before Brent leaves, I just want to say something because I think it's really important. I want to thank Brent. I want to thank Dan Cahill, who's the chair, and the chamber in general. I don't think we all understand in that our chamber in Northern Kentucky is very open to nonprofit and government being involved. And that's not always the case in chambers. I talk to other library directors across the country, and not only do they encourage government and nonprofits to be involved, but they encourage us to be active. So I sit on two groups. I sit on the Vote NKY committee, and I also sit on the Gateway for Growth committee, which is getting immigrants employed in our region, and that new group of people coming into our community and how they fit. And so the chamber has done just a wonderful job in supporting nonprofits and supporting government and bringing us to the table. I think that's so important. And I've lived through several different heads of the chamber. Brent, the most current, and I can tell you, Brent has upped the game on and bringing us in and making us a part of the chamber, because he understands, and I think we all understand, that we're all in this together. And we have found that out in the last 6 months, that we are really all in this together. And so I really do want to thank Brent and the chamber for making that happen. And I want to thank him personally also for supporting the library. Brent is a Campbell County resident. Well, actually, now he's a Kenton County resident. You are a Kenton County resident now. So he's lived in both counties. And
Working my way through.
He's working your way through. Okay. And so he, even when he did not live in Kenton County, he was a big Kenton County library supporter. I remember meeting with him many years ago, talking about the library in Kenton County. And so I want to thank him. And I don't get to as many of these meetings as I would like to, so I don't want to pass up the opportunity to thank our wonderful staff at the Kenton County Library, Natalie and Michaela and Michelle, and also our volunteers. We could not do this workforce development program without those volunteers as well. I know all of you, I'm singing to the choir now because I'm looking at all your faces, and I know you all appreciate the staff and the volunteers as well. But it's good for me to say that publicly because they deserve the credit. We have become nationally recognized for this program in the library world, and we're starting to get nationally recognized outside of the library world. So that's a great thing. And it's all of us working together. So thank you, Brett. Thank you to our staff and our volunteers for making this happen. And thank you to all of you who participate. This couldn't work without you as well. So that's my spiel for the day.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Really
and for those of you that didn't know who Dave is the executive director of the Kenton County Public Library. So, our chief. So thanks for helping making this all possible, Dave, too. We appreciate you. All right, Brett. Well, thank you.